Hello, everyone. It's 2 o'clock. We'll go ahead and get started here. First of all, thank you all very, very much for being here. Really appreciate your time on what I know is a busy time for you, so thank you. I got a lot to talk to you about, some topics I'm really excited about, very passionate about, and look forward to sharing that with you and helping you guys get ahead of the curve on some of these issues. So, what are we trying to accomplish here today? I want to talk about serialization, personalization, identification, both the concepts, what are these things? What are the trends? What are we seeing today? And where do we see this going into the future? Then at the end, I really want to try and tie this all together, see how all these concepts interdepend on each other and benefit from a holistic approach and the way that we can reap bits of value from all of these different concepts in our labeling processes. So I'm Harold Bowe. I was a co-founder of Siegel Scientific. We're the authors of Bartender. So I've been with the company for 35 years. It's been a fantastic ride. We're based out of Seattle, and we actually started as a hardware company. We did barcode readers. That quickly pivoted over the years into label printing, and we were first to labeling. We had an application for DOS. We were very early adopters on Windows. We were really first in this space. We were first to go international. We went to Asia. We went to Europe very early on. And we were first to go to the channel. And you'll find us in just a really dominant position globally through the channel. Our early entry into this market's been a huge benefit to us. It's helped us build a lot of expertise in this area and really develop the market-leading product. 100 billion labels printed. These are kind of some McDonald's numbers here. 250,000 customers. And all around the world, it's really awesome to see the footprint the Bartender has out there. It's given us incredible reach, incredible scope, and it gives us the opportunity to interact with just some of the best companies in the world. So again, we've got that #1 product in the space. Gartner's Supply Chain Top 25 lists us in some very good company. And it's really due to our ease of use. We've seen all of these labeling issues thousands of times. We've really got a product that's built to reduce the friction, really help you achieve some efficiencies and productivity. And we've got some great support. That's another thing we've always been known for. We've got support centers around the world. So wherever you are, wherever your business takes you, we're there to help and support you. So where's our sweet spot? Where are we really strong? Manufacturing, warehouse, logistics, retail. That's where you find a lot of adoption of Bartender. That's where we're really strong. And I like to say we're horizontally vertical. We're basically in all of the verticals. So while we're really strong in that core market, you're going to find us everywhere. You're going to find us in retail. You're going to find us in life sciences, pharma, medical devices, manufacturing, automotive, food and beverage, chemical labeling, again, retail, cosmetics, textiles, clothing, CPG, you name it. We're in all of those spaces. So whatever your problems, whatever your applications, we've got something for you. So that's a little bit about who I am and Bartender and our company. What I wanted to cover for you today are these 3 topics: serialization, personalization, and identification. What they are, where they are today, where they're going in the future, how they all connect together. So just very quickly, Serialization is assigning a serial number at an item level. And that's how you'll hear the classic definition of serialization is at the item level. So every single item is unique. It's like a fingerprint. It's like a digital identity. It's a digital birth certificate, if you will. And that's the classic definition of serialization. I like to broaden it a little bit because item-level serialization doesn't work for everybody. So sometimes, depending on what you're doing and your process, getting more granular with your batch and your lot number is a kind of serialization. Just simply attributing your products more fully is leaning into serialization. So long as you're providing more and more information about that product, more information about it, where it came from, batch, lot, timing, expiration date, there's a lot of these aspects that are serialization-ish if you're not getting down to full item-level serialization. And with personalization, that's really about finding a way for your products to speak to the end user, the final consumer. And at its extreme is you've got a message that's speaking to one individual consumer. Maybe got a bespoke product, whatever it is, you've got a message and a very targeted experience that's reaching out to individuals. And just like serialization, where there's degrees and matters of serialization, you're going to find degrees of personalization as well. It doesn't always make sense for everybody to be speaking down to that individual level. Maybe it's a regional level. Maybe it's a big region. Maybe it's continents. Maybe it's countries. Maybe it's states. Maybe it's finer than that. Could be event-driven or seasonal-driven. So again, personalization can take many forms, and it can be identifying, groups of millions or groups of hundreds of thousands or thousands or tens or all the way down to the individual. Identification is about how do we enable all this? What are the technologies we use to convey the information that we're going to use to achieve serialization, achieve finer, more granular product information, to be able to personalize our products to better speak to those consumers, and at the same time, achieve certain efficiencies, both internally and through the supply chain, through retail, down to end user engagement. So we've got a lot of ground to cover here. So, and hopefully at the end here, I'll be able to tie that all together for you. Again, serialization, in its classic definition, is getting all the way down to a serial number on a product. So it's more than the G10, a G10 14 or something like that that identifies the type of product. The serial number goes one step further. And it's going to say this is one of X of this specific G10. Again, it may be less granular than that. Sometimes it's just taking batch numbers and getting into sub-batches, being more granular with what you call a batch, having things like expiration date more prominently available in your data carriers, in your messaging, in your labeling. Again, I think those are serialization-ish as we get closer to serialization. And the serialization allows the product to be tracked and verified throughout the supply chain. It unlocks a ton of value, and I'll try and pull that apart one by one as we get through it. Again, serialization, if you get right down to the item level, it's the power of digital identity. It's our ability to give all of these objects, again, whether it's on primary packaging, secondary packaging, tertiary packaging, pallets, serialization makes sense at all of these levels. And What we're seeing more and more is regulation, both a combination of regulation and end user demand for this type of serialization. And it gives, there's kind of an upstream and a downstream component to it as well. I mean, upstream, I mean being able to receive serialized supplies from your vendors. And then downstream, meaning you've maybe aggregated that, you've put a serial number on your product, and it's going downstream through the supply chain out to the consumer. And you'll see a lot of people are resistant to serialization. They think that it's very expensive. They don't understand necessarily all of the value that it unlocks. Anytime you're looking at any equation, you want to look at both cost and value. But you'll see it's always somebody on the production side, maybe came from pharma, and you walk in the room and you start talking about serialization. He raises his hand and says, no, don't do that. There's ways you don't have to eat this all at once. You don't have to go to pharma-level serialization to reap a lot of the benefits. We can incrementally chip away at this thing. And it really starts, think about downstream. If you're not ready to handle all that flood of data coming in from your suppliers, just get it on your product and send it downstream. Pick a few select events you're interested in where that thing gets scanned. There's ways to reap some of this value without full-blown, very expensive systems. And serialization is really this enabling technology. I talk about personalization and identification and how they all interrelate. This serialization is so core to getting the maximum value out of personalization and getting the maximum value out of identification. So personalization, making your products speak to smaller and smaller groups down to the individual. If you look at the total volume of square inches of printed materials you're producing around your product or products, or however it is this is getting to market, being aggregated, being repackaged, packaging slips, shipping labels, primary labels, secondary packaging labels. If you stand back and holistically look at the total number of square inches you're producing, and how much of that, intentionally or not, ends up being consumer-facing, there's an opportunity to, and these things all come about. Labeling and marking and coding is so often gets implemented as these point solutions. You go to the guys in operations and production, hey, we need this. Okay, point solution over here. 18 months later, oh, now we got to meet this standard. We have this new supplier, they have this new requirement. Great, little point solution over here. Over the years, that adds up. You've got, at the end, really heterogeneous, tons of point solutions, disconnected. You're redundantly printing some information sometimes. You've got 4 or 5 labels now around this object, kind of obscuring some of its beautiful presentation and whatnot. I think there's an opportunity here to both look at this holistically, find a way to achieve some efficiencies, take out some of these point solutions, do a more comprehensive solution, look at these square inches. What is it that's customer facing, either intentionally or unintentionally? And how can we make that speak to that customer? How do we make them feel more engaged with our brand, with our products? That label can both serve that traditional utilitarian purpose of expediting its path, being efficient, getting through the supply chain, compliance, all of those great things. There's room. There's room to do more. There's room to have this being engaging, have it represent the brand well. And that's the core of personalization. Want to try to make a connection with that customer, and improve their experience. You know, through COVID, we saw an awful lot of changes in our culture, in our commerce, and well, one of them I call the rise of the bespoke e-consumer. They're not walking into brick and mortar. They're shopping online. They want it today or tomorrow. But they also want it bespoke. They want a product that speaks to them. It's kind of an identity-based consumerism. They're looking more for than just simply leading products in that space, features, specs, price. Of course, all that matters. They're really looking something that speaks to their values, and that really just gets to identity. They're trying to find things that are an expression of themselves and who they are. And it's part of, we saw it really accelerate with COVID, but it's really part of the new generation. And they have this expectation that they're going to be able to engage with these products. They're going to be able to engage with them on their phone. And it really pushes the boundaries of the IoT. Right? When we think of the Internet of Things, we're generally thinking of things with CPUs and radios, and they're automatically connecting, and they're sending all this information back and forth. But I think our products that don't have CPUs and don't have radios have an opportunity to join the IoT. If they've got that digital fingerprint on them, they've got that digital identity. If we're encouraging people to scan them with their phones, again, either for logistical purposes through the supply chain, or end-user scans for end-user engagement, wow, we just got access to a CPU and a radio. And what are all of the things we can unlock with that? We start to really push the edges of the IoT out to these unintelligent objects. And we're seeing some great applications. We've seen some great applications in the wine industry, a lot of food and beverage applications. It's a great intersection because we're seeing a lot of regulatory stuff around food and beverage, Food Safety Modernization Act and other things that are pushing people to serialization. Okay, hey, we've got to do that anyway. How do we get more value out of it? We've got this, we've got to comply. What other things can we unlock here? And some end user engagement and some brand presentation are very tangential, very easy to get some more value out of that serialization. We have a great case study that happened with Bartender, one of our companies, one of our customers. They're doing a very, very bespoke product. So they're selling teas, but they allow the consumer on their website, as they're engaging, to really customize and tell them what your flavor profile is and what kinds of things you're looking for. And they create a really custom tea blend. And so these truly are bespoke, one-off products. So that creates, of course, all kinds of challenges on their part, including labeling. And they were able to use Bartender to very quickly and easily set up a labeling process that both reflects their brand, but also allows them to move their products efficiently, track inventory levels, and do all of the kinds of logistical things they want to do. While they also use all of those square inches that they're producing to speak to that end user, to really speak that brand's message to the end user and have it be very engaging. And great case study on our website. Now, not everybody, again, there's lots of gradation here on personalization. You don't have to be selling a completely bespoke product to benefit from this. In fact, I know a lot of companies, customers of ours, that maybe they've been going to market with the bespoke message. Hey, tell us about yourself. We're going to get something just for you. The truth of it being behind that is maybe 5 SKUs. It's really about the marketing message and how you present that. You can really lean into being more bespoke and still be able to do it efficiently. But again, it doesn't even have to be at that level. We can get down to regional, seasonal, event-based, and other areas where we get a chance to present a message of personalization to the end user. So what are the trends that we're seeing? Again, I think this rise of the bespoke e-consumer is something we're just going to see accelerate generationally. These digital connections to the physical world, they're not exotic. We're not breaking new ground here. This is becoming an expectation. This is becoming table stakes. This is how we engage our consumers. And they're looking for bidirectional engagement. They want to know there's growing concerns about ethical sourcing and environmentalism and knowing that how the companies they're engaging with are bringing these products to market is growing more and more important to them. And these personalizing experiences can have, they're very bidirectional. They're learning more about the brand, they're getting more engaged. But that information flows in 2 directions. We've got a lot of businesses you're selling through channels, and you really have no visibility on where those things are going and where they're ending up. If we can find a way to encourage consumers to scan, to get that object to declare itself in the IoT, that information can come back upstream as well and turn into market intelligence that helps you sell more products. So again, we're looking to reap more and more value out of serialization and identification that we're doing anyway for other reasons, either regulatory or for efficiency purposes. So a QR code can really kick off a lot of these, and other 2D codes can kick off these kinds of interactions where they're learning about us and we're learning about them. So identification, that's really at the root of all this as well. And we're all very familiar with our 1D barcodes and growing standardization that we've seen around that, the GS1 standards, data standards, and the rise of the 2D code, the ability to put more and more information right there on the label. And we're seeing, different data carriers, whether it's a 2D code, a QR code, an RFID tag. When we shouldn't forget about text either. Text is a great data carrier when you're trying to get to eyeballs. And something to look for in your labeling and marking applications. I've seen an awful lot of really horrible looking text for various reasons. Sometimes you're afraid, oh, what if there's a lot of text? So you put this really tiny font, and it's really squeezed. Or what if there's not enough text? Or what if there's, so you're reserving all this white space for these edge cases. Or worse, you didn't really plan for it, and your text is writing over something that's next to it. And something that doesn't get all the time and attention it deserves often. We're all worried about barcodes and RFID and all this other stuff. Look for labeling solutions that give you a lot of good quality options for controlling your text, and where you're assured that all of what you want to present is presented, it's legible, and you have enough room to do some other things. And this identification, again, is key to everything we're talking about here. The serialization, the personalization, this is really what unlocks it. Again, this serves so many different logistical functions. It's enabling your inventory control, it's enabling your supply chain visibility, it's enabling you with your vendors and your go-to-market and your point-of-sale scans. It's doing so much logistical work. Don't want to lose sight of that. It's helping you be more efficient. It's helping your product make its way through the supply chain. But there's also an opportunity for it to do even more. So where is this all going? I think it really, what we want to do is skate to where the puck is heading. We want to read the tea leaves. We want to see where this is all going. And we want to be ahead of the game. If in the end, what we do is wait for that regulation to come down sooner than we thought, if we were sitting around waiting for our competitor to be more efficient with the marking and coding that they're doing, or have a better end user engagement with their product, we don't want to be in a position to have to react to that. If we have to react to it very quickly, what are we going to do? Another little point solution. Another disconnected, disjointed, non-optimized solution. So we've got to look at what's happening, the changing behavior of our consumers. We've got to look at the rapidly changing regulatory environment. What are some of those things that are coming? How can we prepare for it? How can we get ahead of that curve? How can we holistically look at all of our labeling and marking and coding, get all those square inches optimized, and be ready for anything? Again, what's coming? We see it all around you. The EU digital passport, and you can say, okay, yeah, that's serialization, that sounds complicated, but it's really only for a few products. Just, again, think about where that puck's heading. Product safety requirements are only going up. Legal liabilities are only going up. End user expectations are only going up. If it's just those products today, what products is it going to be tomorrow? If it's just Europe today, what states in the US are going to be next? If we want to be anticipatory on all this, when those regulations come, and they will, we want to already be ready for that. We want to be set up. We want to have a labeling, marking, and coding solution that's ready to keep pace with the changing consumer behavior, the route to market behavior, our retail behaviors, and the regulatory environment. Again, GS1 Sunrise in 27, there's a lot of things we've got to prepare for and be doing anyway. I think we're at a really interesting time. We're seeing these regulations coming out. We're seeing the sunsetting of 1D. We're seeing the sunrise of 2D. We've got some great new standards to lean on, like GS1 Digital Ink. It's an interesting time macroscopically. We're all either being acquired or acquiring other companies. We're merging all these hodgepodge of systems together. We've got all these things that are coming down the road anyway. It's a good opportunity to sit and look at all these point solutions, see how we can tie them together, see how we can wring all of the value out of this marking and coding process, and be ready for all of this and not have to react to all of this stuff very suddenly, very quickly, with, again, disjointed point solutions. And I'll talk a little bit about some things that are happening, Amazon transparency and smart label. Just some examples of what's going on out there. I'll talk a little bit about Amazon transparency. Amazon's a big, big tech company. They have the power to move markets. They have a very influential space, I know. Not everybody's going to be a big fan. Maybe you're from a competing space. Whether you're part of that marketplace, whether you're moving your goods through there, or you're competing with Amazon, or whatever you're doing, it's very good to know what they're up to and what some of their serialization initiatives look like. And Amazon Transparency is a serialization initiative. It bleeds over into personalization, and I'll get there in just a minute, but the number one thing they're trying to solve is counterfeit products in their marketplace. Certainly in years past, that's been a challenge for them, the perception. There's certain goods my wife will not buy on Amazon for that reason. Anything cosmetic or even over-the-counter medications, she'd rather get that from a source you trust more. Amazon wants to turn that around. They want to become the source for genuine products. They want to change that around. And their mission is not to serialize all of the objects on the Amazon marketplace. Because of the multi-channel aspect of it, that really doesn't accomplish what they want to do. They need to serialize the world. In order for that serialization code on that product that's going through the Amazon marketplace to be effective, it has to be on that product no matter what channel it went through. If it's being sold brick and mortar, it's being sold online, direct to consumer, and it's selling through their marketplace, that serialization mark needs to be on that product no matter how it goes to market. So even if Amazon's only one of your channels, they need a serialization code on that product no matter what channel it's going through. So it's very ambitious. And I don't know that any one of these initiatives is going to change the world. I'm not saying Amazon transparency is they're going to succeed, they're going to serialize the world. But I'm not saying they're not going to either. So they're a big company, they're throwing a lot of money at it, we'll see where it gets. But here's an example of a product. You order it online, you buy it on Amazon. You'll notice there on the top, more and more I'm seeing this, goods that I'm ordering on the Amazon marketplace are showing up with this transparency label. And what's happening is there's a point of sale scan. And this is how they're doing brand protection. This is how they're doing anti-counterfeit. If that serial number either isn't in the system, they never saw it being born, if you will, or they've already sold it, that particular serial number is already sold, or they're not going to sell it again. So there's a point of sale scan that ensures this is authentic good. Additionally, the end user is encouraged to scan it. Got some instructions right there. Hey, scan this. You can scan it with either your Amazon app or they have a specific transparency app. Either one will work. Most people have the Amazon app on their phone. They can open up and scan it. And when they do, there's a few things they see. They get that green check mark. So these are a couple of screenshots from your phone, from their app, when you scan that product. And one thing they're getting is a lovely green check mark saying, this is genuine product. You got exactly what you were hoping for. This is not counterfeit. So there's going to be a lot of trust building in there, a lot of end user loyalty. I mean, there's going to be so many benefits from that. It's going to change the reputation of their marketplace. And if for some reason you'd receive counterfeit goods, you won't be getting that green check mark. You'll be getting notified, hey, there's a problem here. Report this to Amazon, and you'll have a chance to not be using those products, not ingesting those products. And it goes more than simply brand protection. They really want to build out this end user engagement piece. Again, bidirectional market intelligence. We're going to engage that customer. We're going to give them additional information about our brand. We're also going to learn. Where was it scanned? Who's scanning it? Where did it end up? How much information can we learn about this person? How do we feed that back upstream? How do we turn that into market intelligence? How do we turn that into higher sales? Smart Label is another interesting initiative in this space, and I talk about varying degrees, let's say, of personalization, varying degrees of serialization. Smart Label, they have a huge play in food and beverage and cosmetics, other things, a lot of CPG. And I'm surprised more people aren't familiar with it. I raise it to people like, Smart Label, and I'm like, do you look at the stuff you eat? I mean, it is really there. They've got a lot of big brands signed up, and they've got a code that you scan. And it's an example of what I would call e-labeling. It's where there's only so much information about your product that you can put on your product. For all those square inches, at some point you've totally optimized it and you don't have any more room to say anything. The scan lets you say all the things you couldn't say right on the product. Now you've got a chance to engage them with more message about sustainability, ethical sourcing, things that speak to their identity. The more serialized it is, the more personal that message can be. Now, if it's just at the batch and lot level or regional level, again, all of those are valuable and worth having. If it was totally serialized, you could get down to a very, very individualized message. So Smart Label isn't quite that granular. It's not down to the item level, but it's still down to the batch and lot level. You can do some interesting things like recall. A consumer gets a recall notice. Sometimes those things have already left the retail location. They're now in your cupboard. They're in your pantry. If you heard about a recall on the news or something, instead of just throwing your products out, you could go and scan it. So the response to the scan doesn't have to be static. It's not something that has to be designed the day it was born and never change. It's something you can change over time. It could change with things like an expiration date. It could change with things like a recall. So there's all this great opportunities to add value to that scan, and which will encourage, obviously, end users to go ahead and scan that barcode. So we've covered a lot of ground here. On the identification side, I want to stress the importance of really optimizing all of those marks and codes, get it unified, get to a 2D code, get to a standard, use a GS1 data standard, use RFID where appropriate, use those 2D codes where they're adding value, get your text right, make sure that you're looking at the whole thing holistically, you're representing the brand well. It's going to unlock things like supply chain visibility and user engagement. And just recognize the regulatory environment that's coming. And we're seeing strong signs of it everywhere we look. And it's only going to tighten up. Why not get ahead of that curve, serialize to the point that makes sense for you, start to reap some of that value. A lot of people look at these as expensive initiatives, and I think they're really missing it. I think there's opportunities to achieve efficiencies. When you take all these disjointed point solutions, you take all those combined square inches, you're going to find oftentimes you can remove some of those point solutions, have it unified into a single solution. Take those 3, 4 add-on labels, turn it into 1 or 2. Talk about cost savings. We can shut these printers down. We can shut these labels down. Not necessarily great for bartender, but great for you. And I want to encourage you guys to find best and optimal solutions here. And then again, that personalization, getting those consumers. If we know where the regulatory environment's going, we can also draw a line here, and we can see where the consumers are going. We can see where consumer expectations are going. Really getting all this stuff wrapped up is a real challenge for companies. We find that it's very siloed, right? The operations guys aren't necessarily talking to the brand managers, who aren't talking to marketing, who aren't talking to the finance guys, and all of them have something. They all have a stake in this. They all have benefits they can achieve through an enlightened, unified approach to marketing and coding. Sometimes it's a matter of getting the right guys in the room, pulling it all together, and doing something transformative. So we do have a few minutes left here, and I would love to hear some of your questions live here for the group, and if you want to meet me after the session, please do. If you have further questions, you can see us at our booth at B7513. And if you love this session, hated this session, either way, we'd love to hear from you. If you can go to the Modex app and tell us what you thought of the presentation. Thank you very much. If anybody's feeling brave enough, I'd love to take some live questions. sorry? Oh, personalization outside of transparency. Again, I think that case study on the tea company, again, when you're selling bespoke products, and the smart label is also another, it is a form of personalization as well. Because it can be dynamic, you could respond regionally different to that scan. So that scan in California might pull up different engagement than that scan in New York or Texas. So there's opportunities for personalization. Again, bespoke products, not very bespoke products. Either way, you can be more bespoke and more personalized based on that scan and where it's occurring, and information that you can learn right up, from the device that's doing the scanning. Yes. Sure. Yes, that's a great question. The question is, how do you solve the problem of somebody copying the labels? When I heard honestly, when I heard transparency was going to solve anti-counterfeit with a barcode, I'm like, well, that's not going to work. Have you heard of a photocopier? What are you going to do about that? What they're doing a number of unique things, but it's the point of sale scan that really is the game changer. When that object is born is a data event, so they know when that serial number was applied to some product that was about to start making its way down the chain. If it's scanned throughout the supply chain on its way to the point of sale, they can track those as well. When it comes to the point of sale and they scan it, hey, did this serial number announce itself when it was being born? Did we see it at every point along the supply chain where and when we expected to see it? Have I seen it before? Right? The photocopier gets defeated right there. Have I seen this serial number before? There's all this intelligence they can do. Some of it would be augmented with artificial intelligence. By the way, AI's got an incredible personalization play here as well. Like, how can I speak individually personalized messages? I don't have enough time to tailor these messages to individuals. There's an opportunity here for some AI engagement on your labeling. Maybe on your packing slip, you reserve some square inches. We get AI to generate some messages. You get to send a truly tailored one-off message to that customer and really improve that engagement. Sorry, got off on AI a little bit there, but these properly designed systems with point-of-sale scans will be very effective at brand protection and anti-counterfeit. Additional questions? Blockchain. Yes, that's a great question. So we're seeing, how does blockchain factor into this? It's a fascinating question. There's a number of different blockchain initiatives happening out there. So if you look at all this serialization, all this mountain of data, and where it's going to be scanned, and all the vendors, all the different logistics companies, and everybody who wants a piece of that scan. We don't want a closed system, right? We don't want something that only works in our four walls. We want to be able to share this intelligence with the supply chain to help everything move more efficiently. What seems like an obvious ideal technology would be a blockchain that's public. Maybe there'll be, it'd be awesome if there was one. Maybe there's 3 or 4 of them. Maybe you pick and choose which one you're going to be part of. But then these scans through the supply chain, including down to the end user, end up part of that blockchain. That has been used by, right now today it's like niche, high value targets like diamonds and high-end luxury goods. We've seen some very closed systems doing blockchain for brand protection. I think that it's really interesting. We'll see how far that goes, but I do think we'll see a future where there's more products engaged in that level, facilitating that sort of information transfer. achieving, unlocking even more efficiencies. So crazy, here we are, all these years after the barcode was invented, and we still have so much value left to deliver as an industry. Part of it's due to this data connectivity. Now that we can scan that barcode, do the database dip in real time, there's just so much more value left here to be delivered. So interesting to start getting ahead of that and thinking in that way. Any other questions? Guys, please feel free. My name's Harold. Please meet me after the talk. Go to our booth, talk to folks there. Love to hear from you. If you guys are on the leading edge of this thing, we want to be there with you and help you get this done right. Thank you.